Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm Serena.
And I'm James.
And we are answering your questions. So we are talking today all about twin flame mirroring of past lives and also the twin flame blame game. Alright guys, welcome back. So today we have a question from our Ask Me Anything form. If you don't already know, this is a form, you can find the link down below. But this is a form we created. It's a beautiful free resource for you so that you can ask us any question that's come up for you and we will answer it in these videos. So that way we can help more people that may be struggling through the same thing and have the same questions. And we can create content that's truly valuable for you. So if you're new here, welcome. I'm Serena.
And I'm James.
And we are Lifeafterunion. We make these weekly videos to help you through your twin flame journey, your ascension journey, and your conscious relationships. And if you're looking for more support and you would like to join our community, you're welcome to check the link down below. This is a safe space for twin flames who know they're on the path towards inner union, that want to grow, learn, share, and connect together in a lighthearted and fun way. So with that being said, let's dive into the question for today. So this viewer was very, very brave and bold to submit their question. We always appreciate it when you guys submit a question. It really, really helps us. So we just want to take a moment to say thank you. So this question is from, I think it's Shubi. So I apologize always, you guys. I always apologize if we don't get the name exactly correct. But we'll put it also in the comments here. So this question is, hi there, I hope you and your family are doing well. So my question is, what do you do when your twin is mirroring a past life wound to you that they got? My twin blames me for things that his exes did to him even before we met. I sense that it comes from his subconscious belief that I wasn't physically incarnate with him in his past life when we promised each other the lives prior to that we would always be in each other's. So subconsciously, he blames me for abandoning him in his life without me. Now, he wants me, but doesn't want to take any action whatsoever for me or for us. That's a hard one.
It is a very, very difficult question.
So immediately when we read this question, like two scenarios, one from our previous life and one from literally
our current
life, like
this week.
Yeah, like a week ago. Came up for us. So we're gonna kind of talk through both of those scenarios and how they have impacted us. But I'll start off with the past life scenario. And so what's interesting, when I first met James, is I had a very clear past life memory of being a mermaid and, swimming around all wild and free. And James was a sailor on a ship, which, if you guys don't know, so Serena is also another word for siren, which is a siren, a mermaid. And also, funny enough, so there's a synchronicity for you there. And then also, funny enough, James did sailing in this lifetime. So yep. Also funny synchronicity. So you guys, as you know, twin flames, you can't make this stuff up. It just continues to get weirder and crazier the further down the rabbit hole you go. But that being said, I was, a mermaid in the ocean, open, wild, free. James came along and he was with a crew, and this crew decided they were going to capture me and take me aboard and keep me hostage. And so I don't even remember. I think it was actually just the feeling of being trapped by you that triggered this memory. So it wasn't even like I had a feeling of the mermaid and the sailor thing when we first met, because I remember I wrote you a poem about it.
Yeah.
But then the dark side of it didn't come to me until after I was back with you. And I actually remember exactly where we were in your grandparents' apartment when this thing blew up. So this was in the very beginning of our reunion. And I think I was feeling trapped at this time, and I was trapped by my circumstances because I remember I didn't have a car, I didn't have anywhere to get anywhere, and then I felt like very like your energy felt very trapping to me, and I was like very triggered by it, and I realized like it was from this past life where I actually was trapped, not physically by James, but by people that he was associated with. And so I was very triggered in the beginning of our relationship because you used to say things like that too. Oh, now you're here. I've trapped you.
And now get away now.
Yeah. And so he would be joking about it, but it would be deeply triggering to me because I had still had that residual experience like in my being. And so there was a time I remember when this all kind of erupted. I was feeling super trapped. And I remember just laying on the bed and like sobbing into your arms because like that feeling of like just being completely at the mercy of your outside circumstances. Like, right, you have no control over what's happening at all. And so I don't know. Do you feel like I blamed you for that subconsciously without realizing the memory, or do you feel like that I kind of understood the memory and then I didn't really blame you that much in that specific scenario?
I think it was a little bit of both. I think at times maybe you blame me a little bit. At times, obviously, you realize there's a past memory. I think it's also quite ironic and funny that you had this feeling of being trapped, and the first thing you did was come and lie on top of me and cry on my chest, which like then you're like almost already here and trapped, so you almost get back into it, but this time obviously it's more willing, so there was a difference in that sense. But I don't think that you consciously blame me for it. I think sometimes unconsciously it came about as well. I mean, during that period when you were first here, you didn't really know anyone, you didn't have transport, you couldn't really go anywhere. You couldn't drive a manual car yet either, so you couldn't even take my car to get somewhere. So there was a lot of things that limited you down hugely. So there was kind of a imaginary bubble kind of enclosing you that if you wanted to go do something, you either had to walk a fair distance or you had to get me to take you there and back. So you never really had that freedom. You only had the freedom in the area that we were staying in, which
was pretty limited in of itself.
It was beautiful and there's a lot of space, but it's still limited. When you can have 1,000 hectares, but if that's all you can have, it doesn't feel like very much sometimes. But I don't think you ever really held it over me, consciously or subconsciously.
Which is, it's interesting because what's coming to me now is like the idea of healing that. So many of you may be moving through this where you have these past life memories or you have these past life experiences coming up with your twin where they are very painful, or they are abandonment wounds, or they are freedom versus security wounds, or things like that, right? You might be having these things coming up and you're asking yourself, okay, well, how do we move through this? How do we heal it? And so I think the most important thing that you kind of mentioned was like, I came to you and I was sobbing with you, right? And so one of the things is to consciously choose, right? Like in those lifetimes, you didn't have a choice about what happened, right? Like in this specific scenario, that twin didn't have a choice of whether their twin incarnated or not, right? So then you realize in this lifetime, you have a conscious choice to revisit that scenario. And one of the things that you did that I think was also deeply healing for me was when I was expressing to you that I felt trapped, you helped me get a car. You helped me get a rental car, right? You helped me like figure out how I could move about in a way that was like comfortable for me. And so one of the best things that you can do if your twin is moving through this is help try and give them their freedom. Or if it's an abandonment wound, help try and show them that you're going to be there no matter what, right? Like,
and be patient with it as well.
Yes, being patient is huge, because a lot of times what we react to, like if I came to you and you could have had a completely different response where I could have been like, I'm feeling really limited, I'm feeling trapped, I'm feeling like I can't go anywhere, and you could have been really triggered by that and be like, well, I'm not limiting you and I'm not this and I'm not that, right?
Go sort yourself out.
So a lot of times it's like our triggers trigger them, right? And so like it's this kind of snowball effect. And that's also, I think we can probably then now move into what happened to us over the last week.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'll give you guys a really real world example of how this plays out on like a regular basis in a twin flame union or a twin flame dynamic. So I had sent James a spicy text message in the morning. And I thought his phone was, so he was out on the couch with our daughter, and and she was still sleeping. And so I sent him a message and I was in the bedroom and I thought his phone was with him. and it wasn't. And so I had, you know, been like, oh, well, okay, he isn't looking at my message, or he didn't get my message, or whatever. And so it was like a spicy thing. So I was feeling vulnerable and kind of sensitive about it. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was feeling that way. And so then I kind of, you know, went about my day, and then we were going through breakfast. I sat down on the couch, and then you kind of asked me, oh, well, what would have happened if, you know, I answered your text message? And then I still was feeling kind of like guarded, and I was feeling like vulnerable about it. And so I just made kind of like a funny comment, and I was like, oh, your wildest dreams are going to come true. Yeah. And then James made a joke, which really, really hurt my feelings. And it caught me so off guard, because I didn't realize I was feeling vulnerable about this subject. I wasn't realizing like I was having a rejection wound, right? Like, because I was putting myself out there, and I was like, I felt rejected by his joke, right? And he didn't understand that, because I had a mask on, right? So like there was this whole scenario that came up where I wasn't showing up authentically, and then I blamed him. So he made a joke that deeply hurt me, and then I blamed him, and I said, I can't believe you would hurt me like that. Like that was super uncalled for. And like in his mind, well, you can talk about what was in your mind, but in his mind, you know, he's like, how did we get here? Like, you know.
Well, it kind of went from, you know, a bit of playfulness to suddenly being crapped on, for lack of better terms. And it kind of stumped me, because I was like, okay, well, you know, you've said this. To me, obviously I can only speak from my point of view. I clearly had made a joke, because I was, you know, it was a funny thing. It wasn't like anything, you know, overboard or like too dark or anything like that. And it's something, obviously, like I expect you to know to say stupid things like that as well, if that makes sense. So I was kind of like, okay, well, to me it felt like you had overreacted, and I remember saying that to you, which did not help in the slightest. Do not tell them they overact. It doesn't help you at all, even if you're right.
Well, and this is the thing, you guys. From his perspective, I did overreact, but he was missing the information of Serena's feeling incredibly vulnerable about this. Serena's afraid that you're going to reject her. And then you say a joke that is literally exactly that. And of course, it all happens for divine reason, right? Like, obviously, it all happened so that we could have that conversation, so we could work through it and realize what was happening. But the way that ties into this, right, is like if the twin flame is blaming you for something that's not yours in that moment, right? You have to start asking yourself what information is missing, right? Like what information is not being shared in this moment. And for us, it was that I didn't share, like, this is one of the things that we talk about in our twin flame path to awakening, which is not our concept, but it's called the microscopic truth, right? So if I were to send a spicy text message using the microscopic truth, I would have been like, hey, this is super vulnerable, or hey, I'm worried you're going to say no, but da 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 da, right? And then that would have alerted to James, like, oh, this is like a delicate,
make a joke.
This is like a delicate thing. So because this is a delicate thing, I'm going to respond in a delicate way, not in like a joking or a humorous or a lighthearted way, right? But because I was not showing up 100% authentically, and it was subconscious, right? Like I wasn't consciously like, oh, I'm going to evade this feeling. It was like I didn't even know it was there. And so this is the thing, when we blame our twins, we're likely blaming them for something that we don't even know is there, right? So then as the twin that's being blamed, you have some options, right? You either have the option to try to alert your twin flame to what they're doing, right? Which is blaming you.
If you yourself are aware of it as well.
Yeah. Well, so why don't you speak on it then?
I mean, the way that I perceive that situation is, I could either have gone about it the way I did, which was a little bit, you know, I didn't really know what was happening, so I kind of thought it was as a normal conversation, so I wasn't really maybe aware of it. So you can come at that point of view, which is obviously not a wrong way to come about it, because if you only have limited information, you know, and see through something, especially if your partners were in a master in the time, you know, you have that choice to just be how you would be in the situation, if that makes sense. If there's something that you see in your partner that you think, okay, well, maybe they're not giving me the full amount of truth here, then you can always inquire about it and be like, are you giving me everything? Is there anything you're not telling me? You can say, are you feeling vulnerable? You know, there's lots of ways you could approach them in that. Or if there's for another whole different reason, maybe you're just not in a space to be in part of that conversation or that mindset, or haven't got that energy for whatever it might be, whether it be something intimate or, you know, you want to go do something with friends, whatever it is. And you can say, I hear you, but I'm not in the place right now to deal with this. And then, you know, then it's up to your twin then to be like, okay, well, I can either respect that or I can crap on your head and be like, no, because I want this. Either way, it obviously doesn't, it's no right or wrong. But for me, those are kind of the options that spring to mind first. More often than not, in the moment, it's very difficult to know which option you're necessarily going to go for, because sometimes, obviously, we respond just out of
reaction,
and like, you know, the first thing that kind of comes to your mind is like normally your most truest thought in that moment, so you respond in that way, which sometimes, like in that situation, gets you into trouble. Sometimes, you know, maybe your partner might also have been like, you could have been like, oh, well, I'm actually feeling vulnerable, so please don't make a joke like this. I actually want to be like a bit more, either more vulnerable in that sense, because you're saying you're vulnerable, to move through it. So that it comes down to, you know, both sides. And if there is something that comes between you in that situation, just to be like, okay, hang on a second, I picked up on the fact that we're not actually catching each other, we're not on the same page, where did this go awry? And then go from there. Because more often than not, when those situations arise and there does become a bit of conflict from it, it's normally because somebody's missed somebody else's page, or you're just in two completely different places.
Yeah. And I think if your twin flame is blaming you, like from my perspective, I was blaming James for hurting me when he didn't realize he was hurting me, right? So like if there is blame going on, the reason why is a lot of times because we think our twin flame is doing it intentionally.
Mhm.
We think they know that they are hurting us. Or as you said in this question, right? Like that your twin is blaming you for things that their exes did in the past, right? So sometimes we are blaming them because we're coloring the situation as the past, right? We're saying like, oh, you are doing that same thing that other person did to me, right? When in reality, a lot of times it's not the same thing, right? Because again, it comes down to intention. Like James never is like trying to hurt me, right? Sometimes he's just oblivious to what's going on. And sometimes he's just not even understanding like that would even hurt me. Like he doesn't even understand I have a wound there. And then sometimes he just doesn't have all the information, right? So there's a lot of reasons why our twins hurt us, but generally speaking, it's not intentional. A lot of times it's just selfishness, like they're just looking out for themselves, or it's like they don't even know what's going on, or they don't even know that you have that wound, right? So it's up to you to communicate that wound if it's being triggered, right? So when we blame, you have something to say on that?
Ultimately, I mean, what comes to me in my head when you say those points, the main thing that kind of joins them all together is the lack of understanding or
awareness
or information. It's a lack of information about the situation. That's where generally those things come up. So that's where, like we said earlier, the microscopic truth, really giving the full experience of where you are at that moment to your understanding as well. Because obviously, as you go through those situations, your understanding becomes greater. So as you get more and more out of it, then you need to be able to, you know, share that as well in order to stop these things from escalating or sometimes even starting.
Yes. And if you think about it, if they are blaming you for something, it's because they're already triggered, right? They're already wounded. If they're turning the blame on you, it's because they're trying to turn the blame away from themselves.
Yeah.
Right? So they don't want to be held accountable for where they show up and what they're doing, so they're turning the blame onto you, right? Which one of the antidotes for that is if you in the moment they're blaming you and you can see that that's happening, then what you realize is, oh, aha, they're already hurt, they're already triggered. So I don't need to play into that by becoming defensive or being like, whoa, like, no, you blah, 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 right? Like you have the power to stop that in the moment and say, okay, I can see And this is where curiosity comes in so strong. So microscopic truth and curiosity can carry you a long way in these twin flame conversations. And so you bring curiosity into it. You don't judge them and say, you're blaming me for this. You don't shame them and say, how could you do that? And trust me, we've done both of those things. They don't really get you to a good place.
Multiple occasions.
But you use curiosity and you say, oh, I see that you are feeling triggered, or I see that this is coming up for you. Do you want to tell me more about that? Because one of the ways that you can alert them without actually saying, hey, you're being triggered by a past life where I didn't incarnate, and
because that doesn't help don't tell them what they're feeling.
Trying to tell your twin flame what they're feeling and experiencing, also bad. Doesn't work out very well.
Don't advise it.
So when you get curious and you start asking them kind of probing questions, they will generally lead themselves to that understanding. So you don't have to tell them it. If they're aware enough and they truly are your twin flame, if you start asking those questions like, oh, I see you're feeling, are you feeling this? What are you feeling? Where has that come up before? Where have you felt that before? And you start asking them these questions, they're going to come to the understanding that, oh, I'm blaming you for something that isn't even relevant in this moment.
Yeah, the trick is to, well, I say trick, is to make them aware with it without being like, wait, this. So you're helping almost probe them in the direction that you kind of want to go in, or that you feel that's the right direction, without saying, hey, numpty, have a look over here. You'd be like, well, why are you feeling this? Where's this coming from? Why are you triggered? Why are you getting annoyed? Or whatever it might be, and then move from that point there without saying, you're annoyed, what the fuck? Because that doesn't help.
Yeah. So I hope that helps answer your question. It's definitely something we have been through and continue to move through. So I highly say this with an open heart. You are not alone. Anybody else that's experienced the twin flame blame game, you are also not alone. And anybody that's moving through past life things with your twin flame, where you have these over exaggerated responses to something that doesn't seem proportional, you can likely be sure that's probably something from a past life, because those strong emotions can be really tied to past life memories when you don't have an explanation for why you're feeling that way right now. So if this video helped you, definitely like it, subscribe to the channel, give us a comment or a shout out, share it with somebody you love. Check the links down below if you're looking for more support. Ask us a question and we'll share it on the next video. Thank you guys so much for being here today. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.